there, welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha television. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor, and in the next 30 minutes you will get top developing news stories from India and across the globe, starting with the headlines. Winter session of Parliament next month, dates to be decided soon. Government says opposition wrong in alleging betrayal of constitutional mandate. Government grants infrastructure status to logistics sector, aim to enable industry access cheaper finances to develop industrial parks, cold chains and warehouses. Scrutiny of nominations for the first phase of Gujarat elections today. BJP president calls for rejecting casteist and dynastic politics. Congress denies the rift with Hardik Patel group over ticket distribution. After 37 years rule, Robert Mugabe resigns as the president. Jubilation across Zimbabwe after the announcement. ZANU-PF party says former vice president will be the successor. And India's impressive show at the Women's Youth World Boxing Championship. Neetu, Anshuda and Boro as well as Shashi Chopra and Jyoti Gulia enter quarterfinals. First up, news on the winter session of Parliament, and the ruling BJP and the opposition Congress have been engaged in angry exchanges over the timing and duration of the winter session of Parliament. The government has clarified that the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs will soon decide the dates for the session. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anand Kumar said that the session will take place in the month of December. Here are the details.
The BJP and the Congress on Tuesday expressed differences over dates of the upcoming winter session of Parliament. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anand Kumar insisted that the government is committed to hold the session. Taking to Twitter, he said the session will take place next month and the BJP is always committed to parliamentary procedures in letter and spirit.
We are committed to hold winter session. It will be a normal session. And Congress, because it has no other issue, it is unnecessarily raising this bogey.
The Congress alleged that the government was delaying the session to prevent the opposition from raising pertinent questions.
जिस तरह से नवंबर में शीतकाल सेशन को स्किप किया गया और कोई वजह नहीं बताई गई।
ये कोई नई बात है क्या? मैं पूछूंगा, क्या कांग्रेस के लोगों को प्रचार नहीं करना है क्या? आप बता दें। अगर कांग्रेस पार्टी के लोग ये पब्लिकली घोषणा करें कि हमारे अध्यक्षा वर्तमान, हमारे भावी अध्यक्ष, हमारे सारे नेता इस शीतकालीन सत्र में प्रामाणिकता से सुबह से शाम तक बैठेंगे और उनको चुनाव प्रचार करने के लिए नहीं जाना है, तो सरकार गंभीरता से विचार करे।
The winter session usually begins in November and ends after 4 weeks. While the Constitution doesn't specify how many times should Parliament meet in a year, it does state that the gap between two sessions should not exceed 6 months. Technically, the government has time till February to call a session, 6 months from August, when the monsoon session ended. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to the other top story of the day. The government has conferred infrastructure status to the logistics sector. In a tweet, Economic Affairs Secretary Subhash Chandra Garg said that the decision will help logistics sector access the longer-term finance on better financing terms. Now, logistics include industrial parks, warehouses, cold storage and transportation. In 2017, India's logistics performance improved from 54 to 35 under World Bank Logistics Performance Index. The government expects the Indian logistics sector to grow to $360 billion by 2032 from the current $115 billion. And our special segment, Verdict 2017. The scrutiny of nominations for the first phase of assembly elections to Gujarat will take place today. The nomination process ended on Tuesday. 377 candidates from various parties have so far filed their nomination for the election to 89 seats on 9th of December. Nominations for the second phase started on Monday and it will be filed till 27th of November. Now, polling for the two-phase elections for the 182 seats will take place on 9th and 14th of December and the votes will be counted on 18th of December. News from the BJP's camp, and the party president Amit Shah has said that this election was not just a fight between two parties but a battle between the casteist politics and the dynastic rule of the Congress and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's developmental politics. Addressing a rally in Bhavnagar, he took a jibe at Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, stating that he was visiting Gujarat like it was a tourist spot. Shah further claimed that the UPA government had done nothing for the state of Gujarat. During his address, he also questioned what the Congress did for Gujarat when it was in power for 10 years, as opposed to Narendra Modi, who gave the bullet train, the Ro-Ro ferry service and also an international airport.
कांग्रेस जिस तरह से राज्य में जातिवाद की राजनीति कर रही है, पूरे चुनाव का मुद्दा विकास के मुद्दे से भटकाकर जातिवाद की ओर ले जाने का प्रयास कर रही है, उससे जनता की नाराजगी स्पष्ट रूप से दिखाई पड़ती है। अगले सभी रिकॉर्ड तोड़कर भारतीय जनता पार्टी श्री विजय रूपाणी और नितिन पटेल के नेतृत्व में और नरेंद्र भाई के नेतृत्व में 150 सीटों से ज्यादा सीटें जीतकर एक रिकॉर्ड बनाएगी।
And the Congress party has replaced 5 out of the 90 candidates that it has announced so far for the Gujarat polls scheduled next month. The candidates have been replaced for Junagadh, Bharuch, Cambridge, Varacha Road and Botad. The party has also denied any rift with the Hardik Patel-led PAS. After the party released its first list on Sunday, there were protests held over the choice of nominee. Now, 2 tickets were given to PAS as against the demand for 20.
कांग्रेस पर तो कोई दबाव नहीं डाला है। कांग्रेस समझदारी के साथ, एनसीपी के साथ, छोटू भाई वसावा के साथ, जिग्नेश भाई मेवाणी के साथ, पास के साथ और अल्पेश ठाकुर तो कांग्रेस में मिल गए हैं, तो सबसे मिल के कांग्रेस राजनीति कर रही है।
And now an update on the UP civic polls, and the first phase of the voting in UP's 24 districts is underway. Polling is being held for 5 municipal corporations, 71 Nagar Palika Parishads and 154 Nagar Panchayats. The district going to polls in the first phase include Shamli, Meerut, Hapur, Kasganj, Agra, Kanpur and Ghaziabad. Over 1 crore voters are eligible to exercise their franchise for 230 local bodies in the first phase. The remaining 2 phases will be held on 26th and 29th of November. And the counting of votes for all the phases will take place on 1st of December. The civic polls come after the massive win for the BJP in the assembly elections in the state earlier this year. News from down south, and a revised version of the controversial medical bill has been introduced in the Karnataka Assembly. The bill has been designed to regulate private healthcare, and it has now dropped a provision to send doctors to jail for medical negligence. The bill scraps several other provisions which were considered draconian by doctors in private hospitals and nursing homes. They had gone on a strike last week, crippling health services in the state. The changes were made after the government and the striking doctors reached a settlement. The Karnataka Private Medical Establishments Amendment Bill 2017 removes the imprisonment provisions in the case of violation of certain sections of the Karnataka Private Medical Establishments Act of 2007. Earlier, the bill had proposed a 6 months to 3 years jail term and hefty penalty for medical negligence on the part of doctors. News from the northeast of the country, and President Ram Nath Kovind has called the northeast the link between the Indian subcontinent and the ASEAN. Inaugurating the Northeast Development Summit in Manipur's capital Imphal, the president said that the region's geographical location makes it the obvious gateway to India, linking the economies of the Indian subcontinent. He also highlighted the centre's efforts to improve connectivity by modes of road, railway and air to the northeastern states for its economic development.
The development of the Northeast is tied with the development of India's neighbors and the countries of ASEAN. Friendly partner countries from other regions too are integral to our vision for the Northeast and can contribute substantially. Northeast is an amazing social and cultural ecosystem. Few regions of the world have such a wealth of cultural, ethnic and religious diversity.
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu inaugurated the 11th Indian Fisheries and Aquaculture Forum in Kochi on Tuesday. Addressing a gathering, he laid a stress on promoting scientific and technological research to make fishing more profitable. India supplies about 6.3% of the output in global fish market. The Vice President said that the role of middlemen should be reduced to ensure that the economic benefits from fishing and aquaculture reach the fishermen. The Vice President also felt that fish farmers could be better served by making all available technologies accessible to them. He also informed the audience that the government has set for itself a goal of doubling the incomes of fish farmers.
The producer is not getting adequate this thing, and the consumer is getting taking it at a higher price. And in between, yes, there should be scope for business, definitely. Nothing wrong in business. But at the same time, the producer, the fishermen, the people who toil, who risk their lives also sometimes, who put a lot of hardship and labor, they should also get adequate price for their producers.
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also met around 40 differently abled children from the NGO Center for Empowerment and Enrichment. They met the Vice President at the Kochi Circuit House. Naidu said that every child has a special ability and should be nurtured in a way that it helps them to lead a dignified life. And in News at 10, time for a very short break. We'll be right back.
Does India face a kind of a double whammy? 62% of the deaths which are on account of the non-communicable diseases, and then you also have infectious diseases.
This has been a wake-up call actually. In fact, it's a triple burden because we also have the third burden of injuries.
Now that since this report has come out with different data, so does that also send out a message that every state needs to have a different policy?
Now every state government is probably going to look at their report and say, okay, now for next year's planning, where do I need to allocate resources?
How are you really going to expand the services, bring out the affordability? How do you do that when you don't have money?
We need to see a progressive increase in health spending every year. That's the only way that things can get better.
How is the state-level disease burden report a wake-up call for the Indian health sector? Watch To The Point with the Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, Soumya Swaminathan, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan on Tuesday paid tribute to the founder of Swadeshi Jagran Manch, Dattopant Thengdi, on his 98th birthday. On the occasion, Mahajan urged Indian youth to study the works and life of Thengdi, who played a pivotal role for the rights of farmers and workers. The Lok Sabha Speaker also recalled her long association with Thengdi and said that the RSS stalwart had long stints in trade unions linked to various political ideologies before he founded Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh in 1955.
अध्ययन करते करते पूरा मार्क्सिज्म पढ़ा, पूरा समझ लिया कि श्रमिकों का संगठन कैसे होता, क्या होता, ये समझने के बाद फिर उन्होंने भारतीय मजदूर संघ की स्थापना की है.
News from Jammu and Kashmir now, and a soldier was martyred and 3 Pakistani Lashkar-e-Toiba militants were killed on Tuesday in 2 gunfights in Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara district. An encounter broke out after security forces launched a search operation following information about the presence of terrorists at Mahajan in Handwara area. The fire exchange lasted for over an hour, in which 3 terrorists were gunned down. Now, 3 AK-47s and some ammunition was also recovered from the militants. Meanwhile, in another encounter on Tuesday afternoon, a soldier was martyred and 2 Jawans were injured after militants opened fire on the security forces in Zirhama in Tregam area of the district.
As per drill, the terrorists were asked to come out and surrender, but they preferred to open up and they fired on the search parties. The fire was retaliated and the encounter continued for about one hour or 1.5 hours. And three unidentified Pakistani militants affiliated with Lashkar-e-Toiba was eliminated.
And now an update on a Rohingya deportation case, and the Supreme Court has a deferred hearing on the case to 5th of December. A 3-judge bench led by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra on Tuesday said that the role of the state in the matter has to be multi-pronged. The court observed that a balance has to be struck between the national interest and human rights, as the issue involved national security, economic interests as well as humanity. Now, calling the refugee crisis an extraordinary situation in its last hearing on the 13th of October, the Apex Court said that it will give the matter a holistic hearing on 21st of November. 2 Rohingya immigrants filed the petition opposing the centre's decision to deport over 40,000 refugees from India. On to some other news. Now, India and Russia have agreed to implement the General Declaration for visa-free entry of the crew of chartered and scheduled flights between the 2 nations. A Home Ministry official said that the officials of the 2 nations signed an agreement to this effect. It will facilitate visa-free entry as well as stay and exit of aircraft crew of the designated airlines as well as other aircraft companies operating chartered and special flights. 1,200 scheduled flights and about 1,100 Russian chartered flights apply between India and Russia every year. Our top international story now. Robert Mugabe has resigned as Zimbabwe's president after 37 years of rule, finally succumbing to the pressure of a military takeover and the humiliation of impeachment. The announcement came minutes after into a joint session of the Zimbabwean parliament, which was convened to begin impeachment proceedings against Mugabe. As the speaker read out a letter from Mugabe, lawmakers broke out in thunderous applause. In the streets outside, crowds erupted in rapturous celebrations, dancing and cheering in joy. ZANU-PF party has said that former Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa will be Mugabe's successor. It was Mnangagwa's firing by Mugabe that had precipitated the crisis, with the military taking over capital Harare and putting Mugabe under house arrest. Mugabe's resignation marks the end of an era in Zimbabwe. He ruled the country for around 4 decades and is the only leader that the nation has known since it achieved independence from Britain in 1980. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe military chief has urged restraint after Mugabe's resignation.
Well, this is a very big moment. We are so excited that finally we are taking off as a country. We fought for a long time, 37 years of disappointment, 37 years of falsehoods, 37 years of dictatorship. All of a sudden, it has come in handy and we must have a fresh beginning, a new start.
The country feels very, very relieved indeed. I mean, here's a man who has done so much for this country. And we are hoping that really this development gives him an opportunity to rest.
Against the backdrop of the latest developments in our country, your defense and security services would want to appeal to all Zimbabweans across the political divide to exercise maximum restraint and observe law and order to the fullest. Our founded character and tradition as a peaceful and law-abiding nation must now show in practical terms through unconditional observance of the law.
And a day after Donald Trump placed North Korea back on the list of state sponsor of terrorism, US unveiled new economic sanctions on Tuesday targeting North Korean shipping and the Chinese traders doing business with Pyongyang. The United States has designated North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism 9 years after it was removed from this list. And now an update on peace talks for Syria, and Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a major push to end the war in Syria after an unannounced visit by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to Russia. Putin met Assad on Monday evening in the Russian Black Sea resort of Sochi, where the two leaders held talks on the future of Syria. Putin in the meeting stressed on the need to remove from military operations to the search for a political solution to the conflict. Putin told Assad that the military campaign was wrapping up, but there was still a long way to go. The meeting comes ahead of talks between Assad's allies Russia and Iran and rebel backer Turkey. Russia is actively trying to build an international consensus around a peace deal for Syria 2 years after Moscow began a military intervention that turned the tide of the conflict in Assad's favor. After the meeting, Russian President Vladimir Putin also spoke to US President Donald Trump as well as Emir of Qatar about a resolution to the conflict.
Последующего после разгрома террористов мирного политического урегулирования, долгосрочного урегулирования ситуации в Сирии. Я очень хотел бы обсудить с вами основные принципы организации политического процесса.
أأمل بأن تنجح روسيا في تثبيت ما تقوله دائما منذ بداية الأزمة، هو عدم التدخل الخارجي في أي عمل سياسي في سوريا، وإنما فقط دعمه من الخارج.
We had a great call with President Putin. We're talking about peace in Syria, very important. We're talking about North Korea. We had a call that lasted almost an hour and a half. We just put out a release on the call, but we're talking very strongly about bringing peace to Syria.
Now a wrap of more international news now in World Wrap. A suicide bomber killed at least 50 people in the northeastern Nigeria in an attack on a mosque. The bombing in Mubi in Adamawa state was one of the deadliest in Nigeria since President Muhammadu Buhari came to power in 2015. It brought to at least 278 the number of people killed in 2017. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but the attack bore the hallmark of a faction of the Islamist militant group Boko Haram. The US military has said that airstrikes killed more than 100 militants in Somalia on Tuesday and hit Islamic State fighters in Libya days earlier. US African Command said that the airstrikes in Somalia targeted an Al-Shabaab camp about 125 miles northwest of capital Mogadishu, killing more than 100 militants. Now, this is the largest number of reported deaths from a single US airstrike in Somalia since the Trump administration approved expanded military operations against Al-Shabaab. And a Pakistani judicial board will decide today whether to extend the JU fan 2008 Mumbai attack mastermind Hafiz Saeed's house arrest or not. A petition has been filed by Hafiz Saeed in the court challenging the 24th of October order of the Punjab's Home Department to extend his detention for another 1 month under a public safety law. On 31st of January, Hafiz Saeed and his 4 aides were detained by the Punjab government for 90 days under the Anti-Terrorism Act 1997. However, the last 2 extensions to his detention were made on public safety law. Good news from the world of boxing, because ace Indian boxers Neetu, Ankushita Boro, Shashi Chopra and Jyoti Gulia have entered the quarter-finals of the ongoing AIBA Women's Youth World Boxing Championships in Guwahati. Balkan Youth International Championship gold medalist and the reigning national champion Neetu beat Bulgaria's Emimari Todorova in the 48 kg category. Ankushita beat Turkey's Kagla Aluk in the 64 kg category, while Jyoti defeated Ukraine's Anastasia Linkinska in the 51 kg category. In another match, Shashi Chopra got the better of second seed Taiwan's Lin Li Wingyi in the 57 kg category. An ace Indian tennis player, Yuki Bhamri, has entered the second round of the Bengaluru Open tournament. Yuki beat compatriot Sriram and Balaji 6-3, 6-2 in the first round encounter. Bhamri had clinched the first title of 2017 on the ATP Challenger Tour after registering win over compatriot Ramkumar Ramanathan in the Pune Challenger title. Bhamri will now face Pedro Martinez of Spain. News from the badminton court, and ace Indian shuttler Parupalli Kashyap has entered the main draw of the ongoing Hong Kong Open Super Series by scoring double wins in the qualifying round of the men's singles event on Tuesday. Parupalli Kashyap beat Kan Chao Yu of Chinese Taipei in the opening match. He also beat Lee Chiuk Yu of Hong Kong. Kashyap will now face Lee Dong Kyun of Korea. And in the mixed doubles, Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Ashwini Punappa lost 18-21, 11-21 to Indonesia's Hafiz Faisal and Gloria Emmanuel Vidajaja. And news from the ongoing international trade fair in the national capital, where the food court is turning out to be a favoured attraction among the visitors. The Jharkhand food stall, with its long list of regional delicacies, is attracting a lot of footfall. Dishes like litti choka and khaja are a huge hit. According to visitors, they feel lucky to get a taste of authentic state cuisine in Delhi. Remember, Jharkhand is a partner state at the ongoing fair. The trade fair will conclude on 27th of November.
हम लोग लोकल आर्टिशन को प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं और सांस्कृतिक विरासत जो हमारी है और जो इनके हाथ में गुड़ है उसको चाहते हैं कि उसका प्रयोग हम करें और इन्हें भी मिले और हम भी उसका आनंद उठाएं।
इतना स्वादिष्ट था यहाँ पे कि एक प्लेट पहले लिया, पेट भरा था, फिर भी यहाँ आने के बाद लालच इतनी लगी कि दूसरा प्लेट भी हमने ले लिया।
झारखंड की जो हमारी ट्रेडिशनल डिश है, जैसे अपना छिलका रोटी हुआ, मड़ुआ रोटी हो गई और अपना क्या बोलते हैं दूध पिठा हो गया, तो इस सबको प्रमोट करना और पिछले 15 साल से हम प्रमोट करना है और इसीलिए मैंने अपना झारखंड का एक स्लोगन टाइप का लगवा दिया कि स्वाद झारखंड का, जिसको हर किसी के जबान पे आज के डेट में चल रही है।
And on to the International Film Festival of India 2017, where the Indian Panorama segment opened on Tuesday in Goa. The noted actor Sridevi inaugurated the segment at the festival that is on in Goa. In her speech, the actor lauded the hard work of the jury in selecting the movies being screened under the panorama. Hindi feature film Pihu opened the feature film category, while Pushkar Puran kick-started the non-feature film section. Indian Panorama section has 26 feature and 16 non-feature films in the lineup. About 200 films are being screened at the prestigious festival that is on till 28th of November. Meanwhile, in a related development, the Kerala High Court has asked the centre to allow the screening of the Malayalam film S. Durga at the festival. The movie was not part of the list of the films to be screened in the Indian Panorama section. And finally, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, who is in Kochi in Kerala, inaugurated the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the Kochi Municipal Corporation. Speaking on the occasion, he said that the Golden Jubilee celebration of any institution is not only an event of great importance and joy, but also an occasion to introspect, recollect achievements and chalk out an action plan for the future. He also said that efficient local self-government and local bodies are crucial to making any city livable. He said that these days, the condition of many municipalities in the country is not up to the mark. He added that people will cooperate with government if and only if there is accountability and transparency in the system. And that's it in this edition of news. Thanks so much for watching.